What's going on, Houdat Nation? Welcome into another episode of Saints Daily, your home for everything to do with the black and gold. My name is Tim, and we are one day away. It's almost here. The draft is close. So let's jump into what everybody wants to talk about, some Vegas lines, and what the team currently is set to be doing before the draft even starts. Lines obviously are volatile. They'll move throughout the offseason. During the draft, they'll move. After the draft, they'll move. Whenever the inevitable free agents that occur after the draft happens, um, you know, everything will change, and whatever you bet on now will completely be different. I'm gonna preface this by saying I will never give betting advice. I should never give betting advice. I am not an expert at betting. If you look at my account, um, I've put in more money than I have won, and I don't have, a bunch of money in my account at any point in time. It's something I do for fun, just as a, hey, if this hits, great. If it doesn't, I'm not hurting myself. Please never take anything I say as betting advice. I just like to throw numbers out there and see what y'all think, and just as a level set, right? And to that point, I went and looked at two websites, the main two, that you can probably fill in the blanks for. Um, and as Saints fans, it's easy to remember the last 5 games. It's easy to look at what Shuck looked like at the end of the year, and think this team is on the up and up, and this is a team that should be favored to win a lot and potentially win the division and push, right? If you look at what Vegas thinks, if you look at what people outside of Saints fans think, it doesn't really necessarily align. Um, the one site has the Saints last to win the division out of all 4 teams. They had the Buccaneers first, then the black and red bird team second, um, Panthers 320, at plus 320 at third, and then the Saints at plus 340 at fourth. The first two being plus 175 and plus 270. So kind of immediately a little surprising that the last 2 teams are the Panthers and Saints, who probably ended the season the strongest out of this division. A little bit surprising too to see the Buccaneers first. They're first on both sites that I checked, to win the division. I think it's interesting that they have a coach that has probably the hottest seat in the NFL. They went out and got the offensive coordinator that the Bird team fired, right? The red and black Bird team in this division. They got rid of that. They got rid of Zach Robinson, and then the Buccaneers brought him right in to be their offensive coordinator. This is a guy who loves the pistol formation and and was just refusing to go away from it, and it just wasn't working. And maybe that'll work with the Bucks personnel, but they lose Mike Evans. They had some injuries last year. I think you kind of like what you saw from Magbuka, but do you like what you saw from him more than you do from Tedero and McMillan? And I don't think so. I think if I was making odds, I would probably put the Panthers first, Saints second, Buccaneers third, and then the other team last. Um, Another interesting thing is both sites have Shuck at plus 10,000 for MVP. One of the sites has him tied with Bryce Young for those odds, and the other one has Michael Penix tied with Shuck at plus 10,000, which again, very interesting considering he might not even start. So kind of just a level set. Are the Saints really this big of underdogs, or is this, something that maybe Saints fans were getting a little ahead of ourselves, right, in terms of the public narrative. I'm sure this time last year, if you looked at anything to do with the Patriots, probably very similar, if not worse. So I'm not trying to compare the two situations. I don't think the Saints have a Patriots like run in them, but obviously take everything with a grain of salt, right? And then wins, one site has 6.5 wins, the other site has 7.5 wins. So still projecting a losing season for the Saints. Which, again, when it comes to the draft, when it comes to everything, it's important to remember that you're not just drafting for this year. You're not just signing free agents and doing trades for this coming season. You are doing this for the future. This is year 2 of a rebuild. So it's always a good level set on what to expect from this specific team and what the public narrative of the Saints, actually would be. I came up with some fun lines, for Chris Olave specifically. I couldn't find anything for any Saints players, so I just went through some of Olave's stats. Last year he had 9 touchdowns. One the year before. He obviously missed a lot of games with injuries. Five the year before that, and then four the year before that, his rookie season. And then his receiving yards last year, 1163, 424, 1123 and 23 and 1042 his rookie year. And then 100 receptions last year, 32, 87, 72. So with all of those combined, and please let me know in the comments what you think. If you would bet the over, under for all of these, some of these. Really want to see what you guys think of these numbers and, kind of where my head's at. For touchdowns, I have Olave 10.5 touchdowns, 1100.5 yards for his receiving yards, and then 95 receptions. I fully expect the Saints to get a lot of rushing touchdowns this year. They're investing a lot in the O line. They're investing a lot in the running back room. So I think a lot of 1 to 5 yard touchdowns in the red zone might be a thing this year. I think they're also going to go big body receiver in the draft at some point, and Vele coming back healthy as well might take some of those touchdowns off of Olave's plate. So I would go under on the touchdowns, over on the yards, and over on the receptions personally. As always, I want to know what you think though in the comments below. Let me know about what you think about those numbers. Let me know what you think about Vegas's odds right now for the Saints. Is that crazy? Are we kind of getting ahead of ourselves as fans of this team, or is this maybe a good level set and reminder that this is a year two of a rebuild and this team might not be ready yet, but they are. It just feels like they're at the cusp of it, especially if Shuck continues to work out. If he doesn't slump as a sophomore and he continues to grow, I'm all in on 27. Absolutely all in. I think this is a team that would, at that point in time, assuming they hit on this draft again, they might be in a position to really make some noise in the NFL. All right, I want to shift gears completely. Back to the draft, sort of. The trade conversation. Adam Schefter brought up a lot of players, some quarterbacks like Will Levis, some other players like Kenny Moore, but he also mentioned Spencer Rattler as somebody who might be garnering some trade interest during the draft. Um, you wouldn't expect him to get you anything before a day three pick. I think day three, maybe fourth, fifth round would be about right. Um, just based off of, again, just taking off the homer goggles, right? He's a good backup quarterback, but is he somebody that you want starting for your team, or playing valuable starts, right? As a Saints fan, I saw him run the offense pretty well last year, relatively well. I mean, he only had one win, but I think that was more the schedule than it was him. I think he is still, and the coaching, I think, really wasn't strong last year to start the year, and it picked up towards the end of the year as well. I do not fault Rattler for only having one win last year. I think he played well. I think he's a very strong backup, and I want to move on from him. But a team that I could see, there's two teams, I guess, that I could see this that like the Saints actually getting calls from for Rattler. I could see the Cardinals doing it. On a Rattler personal note, right? He was born in Arizona, so I feel like he would probably really welcome that opportunity to join them. If the Cardinals miss out on Ty Simpson, uh, right now Jacoby Brissett saying that he's not coming to practice until he's paid like a starter. And you also might not want Brissett to be your only starting option, really, that you would have coming into the season. So that would make a lot of sense to at least come in and compete with Brissett to be the starter. And if they miss out on Simpson and they don't like Aller or Nussmeier or Beck, who all might be available on day three, and maybe the Saints are okay with drafting one of those guys with whatever pick they got for Rattler, it it could be a good, scenario. It could work out. Saints signed Zach Wilson, so they have a quarterback on the roster with starting experience. Probably not someone that you don't, I mean, similar to Rattler, someone you really don't want starting for your team long term. But crazier things have happened than, a guy like Kellen Moore getting the best out of a guy like Zach Wilson. The other team I could see is the Steelers. Again, they miss out on Ty Simpson. If Rodgers decides he's not coming back, and they don't really have a lot of faith in Will Howard, I could see them throwing some picks over to the Saints to get Spencer Rattler, get somebody on the roster who has some starting experience that's not Mason Rudolph. I don't know if they still have Mason Rudolph actually on the roster now that I'm thinking about it, but last I checked, it was Rudolph and Howard were on their team and waiting on Rodgers. So I could see that as well, being a good fit for Rattler to end up going to Pittsburgh as well, staying in Pittsburgh with the draft, I guess. Um, I personally, like I said, if it was up to me, I think the Saints have seen in the past how important and valuable a good backup is. Think of the Bridgewater Winston starts when Breeze went down. Taysom starts when Breeze went down. Those teams made it to the playoffs and they made it, comfortably during those games because they had a quarterback that they could trust. And if you have that in Rattler, I wouldn't give that up for much less than a very early day three pick. Um, so if I'm the Saints, I don't do it unless you just can't turn down the Hall, right? Obviously, you hope for the player to get a shot to start if you believe that he could be a starter in the NFL, like Moore has said that he's basically said that he really likes Rattler and he thinks Rattler could be a starter, and he doesn't blame him for the losses. It's more of a team effort that was the reason for the losses. You would want to see him get his opportunity to start, but losing that valuable backup, it's like Mac Jones. Would you really want to risk losing somebody who's come in and shown that they can run your offense well? I personally wouldn't want to run that risk. So if I'm the Saints, I don't take that trade unless they're offering me something crazy like a day two pick. At that point, you have to. But if it's anything less than a third rounder, I keep Rattler, which means I keep Rattler for next year. Um, One scenario that everybody's talked about a lot this year is trading down. Um, I think everybody at this point knows I am a Caleb Downs fan, and if he's there at 8 and the Saints don't pick him, I'm gonna be pretty upset as a fan. I'm sure I'll get over it, but as a fan, that is my pick. Also, though, as a fan, if he's not there and you don't love anybody at 8, if he's not there and Reese isn't there and Bailey isn't there, trading down is something that I'm starting to actually come around to as an option. I As a fan, though, right? It doesn't matter what I think. All that matters is what Mickey Loomis thinks. And he doesn't trade down, so it's not going to happen. But I was playing around with some scenarios, and some of the scenarios that I saw as options for the Saints, again, these are during some of my mock drafts that I do, and just seeing everything in terms of like trade chart. Um, there's a few options that I really like. You can trade down to 11 with the Dolphins, 12 with the Cowboys, or 14 with the Ravens. If any of those three teams really want to leapfrog everybody else to get their player, especially, depending on what the Giants do at 5, they really might not have their answer in the secondary yet at 10, and maybe the Dolphins want to trade up to get Mansour Delane, or the Cowboys want to do that. With those picks, you really don't get too much, right? You might be able to pick up an extra third with those ones with 11, 12, or 14. Um, but you do go back, you would still have the opportunity, most likely, to either get Ruben Bain or Makai Lemon at any of those picks, and that to me is enticing enough. It's probably the player that you would want to pick at 8 at that point if the board falls that way. So why not just move back, pick up a few extra later picks, and get the guy that you were going to get anyway at 11, 12, or 14? In the other scenario, not to keep bringing up the Steelers, but the Steelers at 21 and the Bills at 26 are teams I could see trading up. If the Ty Simpson stuff is real and the Steelers are actually interested in getting Ty Simpson, it would be really funny to me as a Saints fan who thinks that the Cardinals have basically used Saints to smokescreen the Chiefs. It would be funny to me if the Cardinals are like, we can get Ty Simpson at 9, and that's really their target. And then they use the Saints as leverage to get the Chiefs to trade up, and then the Steelers somehow see that and they trade up to 8 to actually get Ty Simpson. All hypotheticals and all complete, rumors that the Steelers and or the Cardinals are really interested in Simpson. From everything I'm hearing, he's not expected to go until late first round anyway. So I don't think it's going to happen, but again, it's just a scenario that would be kind of funny if that happened. But regardless, the Steelers trading up to 21 wouldn't just be for Simpson, right? It could be for Tyson. It could be for Love if he's there. It could be for Bain. It could be for really any player that the Steelers think that they might be one player away for some reason. They just might feel that way. And the Bills for the same thing. I could see the Bills looking at Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson and saying that is our deal-breaking receiver. That is the guy that's going to come in here and transform our offense and make us a Super Bowl contender. And I could see the Bills doing that. In both of those scenarios, you can pick up next year's first round pick with this trade. The reason why the Steelers are a lot more enticing to me, obviously picking at 21 is better than picking at 26, but also the Steelers have an opportunity, a bigger opportunity in my opinion, to not have a good year and give the Saints a top 10 pick next year if they would do that trade, than the Bills do, right? The Steelers have to deal with the Ravens and the Bengals, who just got a stud at defensive tackle to help their terrible defense. And then obviously the Ravens, when they're getting healthier, Lamar coming back, Flowers, Andrews, they're all coming back healthier. And I think that they can definitely at least play better and maybe knock the Steelers out of the playoffs. And hey, that could give the Saints a top 10 pick. So those are the ones I would go for. Um, I'm not optimistic it'll happen, but again, I just want to talk about some scenarios because on at least on this podcast, we've talked about staying put at 8. We've talked about trading up to 3 because those are some rumors that have happened. I don't think I've talked about the trade down scenarios yet. So let me know in the comments below if you think trading down, and if you would trade down, which of those options or what other options have you seen would you take for that? For me personally, if realistically the Bills are offering this year's first, next year's first, and like a third, I think you take that. Understanding that you'll probably pick 26 this year, probably end up picking like 26 next year as well. So you lose pick 8 for pick 26 and 26, but that all could just be ammunition to trade up next year in 2027. All right. I thought it'd be fun to do a live final mock draft. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I wish you guys could see my screen, but I'll kind of just talk through the picks here. I'm just pulling up, the first 3 rounds and doing a quick mock draft for, picking for the Saints here at 8. Just kind of talking through my thought process. Really what the Saints would have available to them and who I would pick again if I was the Saints in that room. And yeah, let's go ahead here and just get this started. So we'll slow down the speed, and obviously Mendoza goes first to the Raiders, and at that point we have the Jets going Arvell Reese. So if Arvell Reese goes at 2, I don't think the Saints even consider trading up at 3. If he does end up going, if Arvell Reese goes, or I'm sorry, if Bailey goes to, or Sonny Styles somehow goes to, right, and Arvell Reese is available at 3, I would see a world where the Saints consider trading up. We have Jeremiah Love going to the Cardinals at 3, Sonny Styles to the Titans at 4. So right here, the Giants, would you trade up if you're Mickey Loomis? Sonny Styles is gone, so you still have potentially David Bailey available. I think you just kind of let it keep going. You're probably happy with Bailey, Downs. So Downs goes to the Giants. So immediately I'm thinking maybe trade back Bailey to the Browns. And then we have Francis Mauigoa, the tackle, to the Commanders, which means the Saints have Bain, Delane, Tate. The board falls like this. Again, just me personally, I feel like I have to trade back. And the teams that are interested in trading with the Saints include Chargers at 22, Eagles 23, Bills at 26. I'm gonna see what the Chargers would want for 8. Would they give next year's first and pick 86? They will not. So if they are not doing it, maybe we'll see what the Eagles are interested in, because the Eagles have a few extra thirds. So next year's first and maybe 60, or we'll do 98. Yeah, so the Eagles accepted that. They got pick 8. The Saints get 23, 98 this year, so an extra third. And then they also get their first round pick next year. I think board falling that way, that trade, that deal right there is a win. That is exactly what, if I'm a Saints fan, I'm excited to see the Saints pick at 8. But if they trade and they do that and they move back, they get an extra first rounder for 27. I am ecstatic as a fan. So we're not even gonna consider trading up. So I'm just gonna speed this one along here, and let's just jump up to what the Saints do. Delane went 11 to the Dolphins. That's kind of expected. Tyson fell to 16. That's surprising. And then at 23, you have Keldrick Falk, who I really like as an edge defender. He could fit a huge need. Caden McDonald. I love Denzel Boston out of Washington. Wide receiver. He's 6'4", big. Big receiver, plays big, physical at the point of catch. It's hard to not go with him here. So I think I'm going to do that. I would go Denzel Boston there. He's the best wide receiver on the board. Um, I'm happy with that there. And then kind of just continuing on, Concepcion went early to the Jets. So right here, I don't think the Saints double dip, but popular pick, Chris Bell is still available. D'Angelo Pons would be an interesting pick, cornerback from out of Iowa, Indiana, but I can't get over my bias here. I'm seeing Chris Johnson stare at me. The Saints don't go DB in round one, so I go Chris Johnson in round two, the cornerback out of San Diego State. I know this team said that they think a safety is the best position for that star role, but I think you bring in Chris Johnson, and he can play that star role day one, and he can play it well. So I'd be very happy to see him go there. Yeah, and at that point, you have, we still, let's see, we got Washington and Johnson, so we got some skill positions. Nobody on the line, so this is not a not a Jeff Ireland draft. We got Grayson Halton, the defensive interior from Oklahoma. Admittedly, I don't know much about him. Kalen Rutledge, the guard from Georgia Tech, is very enticing here. Anybody who's watched this show before knows I love Max Clare, the tight end out of Ohio State. The fact we haven't addressed the line yet scares me. I would say you got to go Kalen Rutledge. Prepare for the injury that may happen with McCoy, moving Ruiz inside to center, and having a good backup with Rutledge. So I'm going to go with Rutledge. Hoped that Claire would fall. He did not. He got picked. So with the compensation number 98 pick that we received from Philly, at this point, you have Crawford, the edge from Auburn, Malachi Fields. I don't want to double dip at receiver, not this early at least. So it's between Crawford and Benny, the defensive interior from Michigan. So I would go Crawford at this point. Obviously, this is way easier for me behind a screen to pick players. I have absolutely no repercussions. I'm not making decisions, so it seems potentially easy for those who haven't done mock drafts to kind of look over some of this stuff. But Crawford, again, the edge out of Auburn. He had a good year last year. He, you know, 43 pressures, 5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, 26 hurries. He's 6'4", 255. I think you're pretty happy with him at the end of the third, so I would go with Crawford. And I don't hate the way the board fell after that trade back, but this site doesn't love what I did there. They don't love Kalen Rutledge over Halton. You know, I would go guard any day of the week though, and getting Rutledge there in the third is something that doesn't happen often. So they don't love the Johnson pick as much either, but they did like Boston. So let me know. I obviously wish you guys could have seen my screen so you could see who else was available. But if you have any questions, I could always add some screenshots of what the board did look like at that time. As unrealistic as it is for the Saints to trade back, something like that, getting an additional third round pick this year and just something in 2027 like that would be pretty phenomenal. The Eagles traded up to get Carnell Tate. That kind of tracks. That kind of tracks with what you might expect them to do. So, yeah. Thanks everybody for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, press that subscribe button, give us a like, and definitely feel free to share with your friends. As always, we'll catch you next time, which will be draft day.